you're the author of 5 books, and you've written different genre, and but I don't know if I'm wrong. Personally, I feel like you tilt more towards being a poet. So my question is, do you really prefer poetry to the other forms of writing, and if so, why?
Yeah, I would say that I see myself more as a atypical, if you permit me to use that word, atypical creative. So I don't tend to like bound myself by poetry or essays or storytelling, but I would say I am, I think from where the spaces I've been to, where I've performed art and all of that, poetry has been the most prominent. I have spoken at various conferences based on my other forms of writing, and especially at the Northeast Expo, where I spoke on Dead Lion Stone Rule, finding your inner talent, and I also spoke on using like I think it was just on developing your talent within the workplace as well. So I feel even though I'm visible in terms of poetry, but I see myself as an all-rounder, poetry, essays, and as I'm just delving into storytelling through my upcoming collection of short stories. So I just see myself as a combination of all, but poetry seems to be the one that garners the more interest in my art and crafting. I would say that. When the name Omotayo Sangofadeji is mentioned, what comes to mind for me as someone who has followed your work, has been part of your journey, the one that I've been part of, is a storyteller. You embody storytelling. So I want to ask, how did the journey into storytelling? How did it begin? What brought up your interest in stories? And what do you think? What are the benefits of storytelling?
Well, I think my journey into storytelling started from being a reader. So, growing up, I was a very voracious reader, and I remember that I was reading as many books as I could, and it got to a point where my parents got tired of buying me books because I was literally moving through each book they bought me with so much speed, and they couldn't keep up. So I think reading other people's stories sort of piqued my interest in storytelling, and the more I read, the more I loved storytelling. Um, at first, when I started to write stories, obviously as a child, I used to write about children's stories about how the tortoise had a broken shell and all those Nigerian classics. And then with time, obviously, as I developed and moved from reading enlighten to Nigerian classics, my writing style also developed. um, I know I wouldn't say it sounds cliche, but the the way I see storytelling, it just comes to me like effortlessly, and I just have these voices in my head that are always talking to each other. And writing for me as an adult started from me trying to reduce the voices in my head, because when you constantly have voices in your head, what happens is your attention is divided. So my attention is constantly divided between whatever it is that I'm doing in the present and the voices in my head. So writing started for me trying to pay more attention to the present, and that meant that I had to write the things that were in my head, and more like create space for more ideas to come in, but it also gave me the privilege of being more in the present. than, you know, in the stories in my head. Because I remember that sometimes I would be walking and I would be talking to myself based on what was going through my head. So storytelling for me was an avenue to release the emotions that were in my head. What do you find most challenging about writing a character of the opposite sex?
Okay. Yeah, so character of the opposite sex is, I think the most challenging aspect is to know like the kind of behavioral traits that you expect the opposite sex to do. So I remember I had one of the stories when we were going through it together, and you mentioned that, oh, you thought it was a guy because Ijebu weed. So you know, so for so many people, they may not actually expect a girl or a lady to be smoking weed. Yeah. So, but in stories, that's why it's fiction. Even though there are women that smoke weed as well, so it doesn't really mean. But because it doesn't happen all the time, so it's just being able to like capture what do you expect, you know, a woman to do, or what kind of reaction do you get if, say, the male character behaves in this particular manner. Yeah, so I think that's just one of the most challenging, you know, things to be able to depict about the opposite sex.
When I was writing Amanda 2019, I was writing about the kind of world that I envisioned for the girl child, the kind of world I would have wanted to be in, and the kind of world I would want my daughters or granddaughters to experience. But even though it's more like, obviously everyone hopes their children meet, you know, better world than they do, but I'm also not so distanced from reality to know that we still have a long way to go.
True.
So even there are women in the workplace, but then the truth is we've come far from when women couldn't take certain jobs. But now that women can do those jobs, how far are they moving up the ladder?
Yeah.
So there's still so many vital issues that need to be addressed.